What's going on, YouTube? It's the Hurry Up Offense here to preview Week 13 of the NFL slate. TJ Winger here with you, as always, with the shaman of sharp bets, GT Creed, as well as our prophet of plus money plays, Mason Cannon. Hey, we're all coming off a big win for the U.S., and now we wait and see for Saturday. But overall, how have the last 7 days treated y'all? Actually, 8 days. We had to put out last week's episode a little early, but how have the last 8 days treated y'all, guys?
Football-wise, been good. Soccer-wise, pretty cool. Otherwise, not so much. UNC basketball, big UNC fans. Me and Mason both are. That's why we're rocking this. He's got the hat on. Big game tonight versus Indiana, trying to bounce back after 2 straight losses, 1 in 4 overtimes. So, yeah.
And against 8 people, if you include the referees. But, that's just my opinion. But, Mason, how have you been, man?
Good, man. Went over to Kentucky for Thanksgiving to see some family. So that was good. Watched the Vikings Pats game on Thursday night. Hunter Henry, definitely a touchdown, but
you know what? that brings up an amazing question, because one of the things I used to, or just a point in general, but I used to be so mad about the Jesse James touchdown against the Patriots, and that was the reason the Steelers weren't the 1 seed in the AFC. They didn't go 14-2, and then we got bounced in the divisional round after we had a first round bye. So you know what? I felt like this was karma, just catching up to you.
More karma, absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, the NFL catch rule. I mean, Dez, Megatron against the Bears, Jesse James, Hunter Henry. I mean, they're over-explaining it, basically. But anyways, we do have some rhythm throws, and then we're going to get into our 5-game preview, which we are breaking our structure a little bit there. We're not talking Sunday night or Monday night football. So sorry, Colts, Cowboys, as well as Bucks, Saints fans. We have more interesting games, in my opinion, to talk about. No disrespect once more. But I did want to talk to y'all about a couple of the QB situations here in our rhythm throws. So let's start with, you guys are big Cooper Rush guys. I'm a huge Mike White stan. I am here for it. So Mike White, Zach Wilson. I started out with as simple a question as this. Does Zach Wilson start another game this year? Mason, I start with you.
Dude, after Mike White's performance last week, I would have to say no. Also, last week he kind of lost the locker room a little bit. So I would have to say no. Dude, Mike White put on such a show. The Jets, low-key, looked like a playoff team last weekend. They looked really good. So I'd have to say no.
JT, what do you think?
Yeah, clear improvement in offensive upside. There's no way I'm going back to Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, the problem with Zach Wilson that I see a lot of times is, like, you can make the right call as an offensive coordinator and it'll be a negative play. And when you have a quarterback that can turn the right call into the wrong call, I don't want you on the field. And I don't think Mike White does that quite as often. So that's kind of where I see them just sticking with him. I don't know if it's going to take Zach Wilson a couple of years to, like, understand how to play. It's like how to play in the NFL versus the college game. You can get away with some of the stuff that he does in college, but, like, in the NFL, sometimes you just got to run the play, man.
Yeah. And hey, I mean, maybe Zach Wilson becomes the next Geno Smith, sits on the pine for 6 years, kind of figures it out. And just
he needs all 6, I think.
Definitely.
That's amazing. Well, I think Robert Saleh even put it after the game perfectly. Mike did the easy stuff really well today. He made the easy stuff look easy, and that's honestly the best way to sum it up. And I watched that Jets game. He didn't really look that good. And I mean, love me some Mike White. He didn't really look that good. You know what that game felt like? A good Jimmy Garoppolo game, where it's just like, dude, how did Jimmy G toss 3 tuds, 318 yards? Like, what? Oh, it's because he's got Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, and the offense does it for him. So I totally agree with you. I think Mike LaFleur finally rejoiced as, like, hey, look at what my offense can do. So I'm with y'all. Also, when you compare Zach Wilson to Tua Tagovailoa playing in the same offense and they're completely different results, I think that speaks volumes as well. And then the other QB situation I want to talk to you about, Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. I mean, Love looked like he was slinging it, but also there is something to be said that you're down 10 in a game, and that game was at home, right? So it's like, whatever. He came out there and he looked confident, and he was just tossing around the yard, got some big plays. But Aaron Rodgers says if he's, if they're in playoff contention, they're not mathematically eliminated, he wants to play. And they got the Bears coming up, so everyone's going to look pretty good in that game. So, JT, let me start with you. Do you think Rodgers should be playing? Do you think we get to see Love anytime this year?
As a Packers coaching staff, I don't know. That's a tough one, man. It really depends on what you want to do with Rodgers. Like, it doesn't seem like they want to keep him. It doesn't seem like, I don't know if Rodgers wants to be there or not. It's hard to get a read on him. But I think it kind of depends on your future with him. If you're definitely set to move on, there's really no point in starting him rest of the season. But if there's any chance that you might hold on to him, I say you stick with him until mathematically eliminated. I don't know. That's kind of a tough one.
Yeah, and I mean, the argument to be had is, hey, well, even if you beat the Bears, it's probably not long until you're mathematically eliminated. Right now, they're picking eighth in the NFL draft, so it's probably not too far away. But I'd like to see what Jordan Love has, and to me, I think the reason Aaron Rodgers is saying, "Yeah, I'm in," is because of the Zach Wilson stuff in a lot of ways, just because he doesn't want to feel like he's quitting on his guys. So I don't know. I think he's gone one way or another, retirement or trade this offseason. So why not see what Jordan Love's about? Mason, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think he's either gone after this year or he hangs up the cleats. But yeah, Jordan Love looked pretty good that last. I think he played 2 series, maybe 1 series, 2 series. Yeah, he was throwing the rock pretty well. But yeah, I guess until they're mathematically eliminated, roll with your guy. But I was looking at their schedule. It's not a favorable rest of the schedule, so I could definitely see them, being eliminated pretty soon. So I would also, enjoy seeing some Jordan Love, just see what he's about. But I would roll with your guy. And
yeah, I'm a big toolsy quarterback. I used to love Jordan Love coming out of college. You guys were both kind of like, which I understand. Like the returns in the NFL have not been great. So I'm just kind of optimistic. Maybe he's figured it out. Like I said, he did look confident once he came to that game. But, when you're coming into a game down 2 scores and it's the fourth quarter and you're given the okay to sling it, yeah, sure. Why not be confident? What I want to see is like, hey, let's say he does start against the Bears and they defer. They say, hey, Jordan Love, you get the ball to start this game. Show me something. That's a very different setting. So I want to see how he kind of handles that type of pressure. But also there could be a world where Rodgers starts until like week 16 and then week 16, 17, 18 or whatever becomes Jordan Love time because they're mathematically limited. So I think we might end up seeing both, but it'll be interesting to see. Rodgers for that injury was kind of weird last week and did cost me the passing yard prop. So shout out to my man, Aaron Rodgers. Let me down there. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to our 5-game preview. The Lone Island game we are going to talk about is Thursday Night Football. Bills Pats. I mean, this huge game for the top of the AFC East. I mean, one, from the perspective of if the Pats pull this upset off, Miami's in a spot where they lead the division. And I think they'd even have a game up on the Bills record-wise, and they already have the tiebreaker. Granted, they still have to play one more time. Or meanwhile, this could be the nail in the coffin potentially for the playoff hopes for New England. So I start with our Patriots fans on the call here. Mason, what do you think coming into this one?
Well, one thing I do know for a fact, Damian Harris has been ruled out. So feed me your Ramondre Stevenson, 100%. But yeah, last week against the Vikings, we probably played the best game of the year. Definitely, had that
Mac
game.
Jones' best game for sure.
Mac Jones, definitely best game I've ever seen this year. So I could definitely see him, falling down to earth a bit this week. I do like that we're at home, and us only being 3-point dogs. It's a little sketch. I feel like the Bills should be favored a little bit more. So honestly, as a Pats fan, I love the spot. As a betting perspective, I don't think I can go with the Pats, so I would lean Bills a little bit more. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see both sides, see what they got. But I think I'm going to lean Bills at the moment.
Yeah, when I checked earlier on DraftKings, it was at 4, which again, kind of that weird 3 to 4 line. But I think I'm with you. But JT, let me hear your thoughts on this one. Pats getting 4 points at home. Are you right in there? Or do you think the Bills are able to cover on the road?
Yeah, I'm seeing 3.5. I think I lean Bills to cover, whether 4 or 3.5. I don't know. I think they're just a little bit better than the Patriots as far as I would give them a touchdown, to be honest. I think Mac Jones had a really good game. He made all the throws, but dude, I think we could have made some of those throws just because of how bad the Vikings defense is. No hate on Mac. He made good plays. And I'm not saying that, like, I don't know. I just feel like it was more a product of our poor defense, as I'm a Vikings fan. So definitely know our defense has its struggles. So I don't know. It's interesting, though, because the Bills kind of squeaked out their win last week, too. So it's like it's a little – I don't know. The Bills still feel shaky to me as far as kind of where they started the year and kind of where they are now. It definitely doesn't feel like you can trust them as much. I don't know if I'll bet it for that reason. Like trusting the Bills with your money to cover right now is just kind of shaky. And the Patriots are, notoriously they'll hang around, inside the division as well. So it's kind of like, do you want to lay basically a touchdown? If it was at 2.5, I think you have to bet the Bills. Sure. At 3.5, I don't think it's ever going to move towards 3 or 2.5. I think 3.5 is as small as the spread gets. So I might stay away from it.
Well, I mean, on that last note you talked about, I mean, less than a field goal, I'm all over the Bills. It's just like, hey, with Kansas City, we'll talk about later on. Anytime you get one of those premier teams less than a field goal, it's worth taking the flyer on it. I think the angle I'm going to bet this game is Bills money line and then moving the total down to 39.5. It is kind of interesting, the weather in New England. Last time I looked, it's going to be about 40 degrees when it's going to be sub 20 the day before and sub 20 the day after. So it's kind of like a weirdly decent night in New England. So maybe there's just enough offense. 39.5 is a very easy hittable number anyways. And then you're getting Bills money line. I do think Buffalo is the better team in this one, which is going to shock nobody. But also getting Tre'Davious White back. I think that defense is getting closer and closer to being at full strength. You also have Jordan Poyer back. He's missed some time this year. I think Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, they've been awesome. So missing Von Miller, that's like the last big absence. And then I guess Micah Hyde, if he comes back this year. I think that defense is getting closer and closer to its best form, specifically if you take out Von Miller from the equation. And then, yeah, it'll come down to Josh Allen. If Josh Allen has like a 4-interception game, another thing that nobody will surprise here, they'll probably lose this game. So it comes down to, how clinical he can be with the football, especially against Bill Belichick and a guy who's known for scheming it up. What I'm interested to see also from this game is Justin Jefferson balled out. That was one of the weird games from a Bill Belichick standpoint where he didn't take away wide receiver one. He's always been known for being able to do that. So how does he fare against Stephon Diggs in this one? And if he takes away Diggs, like, is Gabe Davis able to win this game? Is Isaiah McKenzie enough to win this game? That's maybe your angle there if you're a Patriots fan and why you think maybe Pat's money line's your play this week. But what do you guys think? How do you think Bill holds up against Stephon Diggs this week?
It's a good question. I was surprised by the game plan against Jefferson. Not a lot. I thought they were going to have somebody shadow him a bit more. I don't know who, but he typically does worse, in my opinion, when you just stick the same guy on him and then just offer help over top, which is kind of what Belichick's known to do. So it's one of those things that was kind of weird. I saw a lot more zone than I expected. But yeah. I don't know what they're going to do about Diggs. I mean, I would switch it up, go back to your old ways kind of. But I don't know. Mason, I got a question. Was Devontae Parker, was that his first full game last week?
It might have been.
I think that's a huge deal that maybe not a lot of people are talking about with the Pats. Because I noticed him a lot on key downs against us. So that's something to note is pay attention to Devontae Parker, see how much that opens up that Patriots offense. We might see a little bit of continued efficiency from Mac Jones based on just having an extra actual weapon on the outside, in my opinion.
So actually talking about that, I have his snaps pulled up. He played 47 snaps last week, which is fourth most that he's played in a game this year, but by far the most since week 7. He only played 1 snap week 8, then returned from injury week 11. So it has definitely been an absence that I think you could feel in that game plan.
But also, Mac was out when he was healthy, and then
right.
And then now they're finally both on the field again.
Right. So that might have been part of why the offense opened up, but I do agree with you and concur that Minnesota's secondary also just got kind of exposed there on Thanksgiving. But Mason, let me throw the question to you. How do you think Diggs fares against your boy Bill Belichick?
Yeah, so going back to last week's game, I hammered Justin Jefferson prop over 86.5.
Which we recommended here on the Hurry Up Offense. Get your grade while you can.
Yep. But the reason I did that was because he was, I don't know how many yards away he was for breaking that record. I just knew he was going to hit it, being at home, and it did hit. Sure. But yeah, Belichick not taking away that top guy was a little shocking. So I think this week, they definitely take away Diggs, because I've noticed in games where Diggs is not getting balls, he just, he likes to just throw tantrums. He gets really pissed off. And then the Bills, that whole scheme, it just gets tossed out of the drain. They just get so frustrated. So I can definitely see Belichick doing that this week, forcing him, forcing Gabe Davis to make plays, forcing Isaiah McKenzie to make plays. So I definitely think that is the case this week. I definitely like Gabe Davis's prop this week. So I think it's going to really open up the field outside of Diggs. So,
well, here's the spicy play. If you buy into that thought, do you bet under Stephon Diggs props? Right. I mean, there could be some plus money value right there, and you're the prop for that. So you might want to look into that. That might be your move here this week. But also, I think you look to the Jets game for the Bills, and it's when Stephon Diggs wasn't there, it's Josh Allen's legs, and that's about it, which is weird to say because I like Gabe Davis and I like Isaiah McKenzie, but it's one of those things where it's as much as we're talking about OBJ and Dallas, I mean, kind of feels like Buffalo could use that guy who can separate, get open with ease, and work multiple parts of the field. Anyways, we've talked a while about this game. Let's move on to our second one. Sticking with, fan favorites here. We got the Jets taking on the Vikings. Vikings lane 3. So continuing our point about, good Jets defense, and then more of the same for the Vikings last week. The offense looked really good. Kirk Cousins continues to play really well. Like to see that defense take a step forward this week, especially against my man Mike White. But JT, I'll start with you. Where do you have a lean on this one?
Yeah, I'm leaning Vikings -3. I think that's about where it should be. If I bet it, I kind of like a teaser where you take the Vikings all the way to +3 and then bet the over. That's kind of how I would bet it. As far as the game goes, though, I think it's a decent matchup for us. We're kind of thin at corner right now. Booth out for the season, so Dantzler still out. So we're basically, it's Pat Pete on one side and practice squad on the other. So the secondary is not getting any better anytime soon. But I think the Jets receiving core isn't something that you have to really worry about getting toasted, in my opinion. I think that there's still a lot to prove there. I also don't think that Mike White is going to be somebody who's going to consistently throw dimes 2 weeks in a row. That being said, like I said, our defensive secondary is pretty rough. I don't know. I think the matchup's fine. I don't think the Jets are all that great. I look at some of their wins. They're okay. But you can say the same thing about us too. So it's really just sure. I have more confidence in the Vikings than I do the Jets on a consistency basis.
And how about this nice little string of home games? One, also, I like that teaser. I'll come back to that in a little bit. But home against the Cowboys, that didn't work out great. But on paper, that's a nice place to have it. And then bounce back against the Pats and then home against the Jets, who were better than most people expected. That's a nice little stretch you guys have had here. But Mason, what do you think about this one? Do you like the Vikings being able to win by more than a field goal? Or do you have any lean on the total here? What are some of the things you're looking for?
Yeah, I would say the total is kind of spicy. I do like that teaser play. On DraftKings, you can get Vikings +3 at or -3 at +100 if you are into that. If you're interested in that. But like JT said, I think I just have more confidence in the Vikings right now than I do the Jets. Mike White did his thing last week. Now he faces a Minnesota defense secondary that's kind of struggling. But like JT said, he's not too worried about the pass catchers on that Jets offense. The only one that really sticks out to me is Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson's a dog.
I think Garrett Wilson's good, but like Pat Pete, to me, notoriously against rookie receivers, handles them well. Like sure. It's just the vet versus the rook is like kind of what I'm banking on there.
Sure, I can see that.
But yeah, as like a betting perspective, I don't know if I'll touch it. I don't know if I'll watch it unless it's on Red Zone. But yeah, I would lean Vikings, but I do like that teaser play.
Well, what that +100 mark on Vikings laying 3 tells me is this game is going to move to 2.5. And I think that's when you hammer this teaser, right? You get to 2.5, and yeah, you're not going to gain anything by moving through 0, but then you're going to have Vikings +3.5. And if they lose this game, they're losing by a field goal. And the only reason that there's a difference there is if it's Vikings +3, your teaser's voided. It's the push. So if you get it at +3.5, you keep your hopes alive. And then if you move the total down to 38.5, I am telling you folks, there are going to be more than 39 points put up in this game because the Vikings defense is not great. Granted, the pass rush could create some headaches there for the Jets offensive line and some of the, replacements they've had to put in over the course of the season. But that being said, okay, sure, maybe Pat Pete holds his own against Garrett Wilson. Elijah Moore gets into the end zone for the first time this year last week. I think there's enough weapons to go around to keep this game interesting. And also, I mean, if we're being honest, that Shanahan scheme is just OP, right? Like even good defenses struggle against that Shanahan wide zone scheme and how they can draw people open. So that's going to be what I want. And then of course, Sauce Gardner versus Justin Jefferson. I mean, that's the matchup. That's what dictates this game because, if Sauce has his way, I can see this being like the Vikings only score 13 points. Or Justin Jefferson does what Justin Jefferson's been doing all year long. He goes crazy and, the Vikings are pretty good. So I actually have 2 ways you can play this game. And this will basically hedge one way or another. You go with the same game parlay, Jets money line, and then like Mike White over his lowest passing prop, whatever. It was 195 last week. Let's just say for the sake of argument, it's 209 this week. Over that, their money line was at +140 last time I looked. You're looking at +200 minimum, probably right in that ballpark. Put $10 on that, 10 becomes 30. Or you go bananas on the other side, Justin Jefferson, same game parlay with 6+ catches, 90+ yards, anytime, something like that. And you get that up to like +400. Throw a 10 on that, you're looking at potentially winning 50. So no matter what, you're putting in $20 and you're winning at least 30 or 50. So just a couple of options, I think, to bet this game from 2 different ways and, ensure some winnings because either the Jets are going to win or the Vikings do. And Justin Jefferson more than likely is going to have a pretty big day if they do win. So I think that's the way you can kind of split here. What do you guys think about those plays? Or do you guys think I'm crazy?
No, I think that's true. I made the comment during our game against the Patriots. I've never seen a receiver take a 500 team and make them 9-2. And that's legit what it feels like when you watch the Vikings. Like our offense, like it is Justin Jefferson and everything else is open because he's there,
Right.
or it's not because he didn't win his route. Like that's it. That's it. That's all we have. And legit, I feel like that.
And I will say, because we were even talking about it, the in-game, the early down run plays, that was kind of frustrating, the two of us last Thanksgiving. But a lot of the play designs didn't set up plays for Justin Jefferson that looked similar, but then Justin Jefferson, excuse me, they would get that little bit of extra separation, trying to keep secondaries honest, that sort of fun stuff. Old football talk here. But yeah, I think that kind of even plays a factor in it. Even when the ball's not going to him, they're setting up plays that will eventually get him the football, which I think just speaks volumes about how much of a stud he is. So I think there's some good ways to bet there, but it sounds like we all kind of like the Vikings to win this one. But I think the Jets can be scrappy here. Let's move on to game 3 now. Titans and the Eagles. I mean, I'll start here. If you're going to give me the Titans getting 5.5 points, I think I'm going to take that. I like Philadelphia to win. I think the Titans have what it takes to keep this game close. Obviously, to me, this comes down to Derrick Henry versus the Philadelphia run defense. If this turns into the Commanders game, good night, Philadelphia. Sorry, your kryptonite. It cost you another win. Or if it's something more like, after the first drive against the Colts, or even last week where they're able to stop at a little bit higher clip. Okay, Philadelphia's probably the better team here, but I don't know, Derrick Henry, man, he's King Henry for a reason. So Mason, let me throw it to you here. What do you think about this one? Eagles, Titans, and the Eagles having to lay almost a touchdown in this one.
Yeah, I think they win the game. The Eagles 5.5, 5.5 is kind of sketch. I definitely think Derrick Henry, kind of catches fire again this week, only being held to I think 40, 50, something like that yards rushing last week. So I definitely think seeing that Eagles run defense last week kind of exposed, it was not good at all. So I definitely think the Titans just continue to run the rock. I think Tannehill has a better game this week. So I definitely could see a cover. I don't know if they will win, but wonder what that money line spread or money line odds would be at, because the Titans, it's kind of a spicy move. I kind of like the Titans a little bit more. Definitely not going to bet the Eagles to cover. Just because I feel like ever since, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, they just haven't looked the same. They kind of came back down to earth a little bit. They're not as good as, people might have seemed to be, but I don't know. It'll be interesting.
No, I agree. And I think Philadelphia, I think the execution level has just kind of dropped. There's more turnovers in the mix now. It's just the first 8 games when they were undefeated, they were playing like the best team in football, and now they kind of come down to earth. Feel like they're a good team, but they're just not the last undefeated team. But, JT, let me hear your thoughts. Where do you stand on this one? Eagles, Titans?
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles are still struggling against the run on that interior, which is what Derrick Henry is, great at. So it's it's still a bad matchup for them. It's kind of interesting. We're seeing week after week, they're getting kind of their I don't know, like their test of the D line. They signed Ndamukong Suh, who, he's a big, strong dude, but his game was based on explosiveness, and he's old now. That doesn't help. And they signed Linval Joseph, who's 40 and 400 pounds. So I just don't know what, I don't know. Those signings, they sounded better than I think that they were going to ever play, just because the age of the D tackles. So I think the Eagles still have some issues there. I think the Titans, I don't know that they can put together quite the game that the Commanders did, because I think the Commanders defense is a full step beyond the Titans defense. Sure. I think the Titans defense is decent.
Yeah.
But I think the Commanders have a top 5, undoubtedly in the league. Their defense is legit on pretty much every level. They've got corners on the outside that are big and physical. Their D-line is pretty much second to none. So to me, I don't know that the Titans can slow down the Eagles quite like the Commanders did. 5.5 points is really nice, though, getting a team that loves to run the ball versus a team that can't stop the run. So I think I agree with you guys that the Titans plus 5.5. It's not a lot of points, though. I like it if I can get it 7.5 and then put it with a parlay with, I don't know, Derrick Henry, maybe his lowest rushing yard prop or something like that, whether it's 50 plus or even if it's 65 plus, something like that. I don't see him being held down quite like he was last week. So that's kind of the way I'd play it from a betting perspective. But Eagles are still legit, just have kind of a glaring weakness that we didn't think they had through 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, this game to me screams 24, 21, 27, 24, something like that. So I feel pretty good about the Titans covering, and that might be a play I make. I still think Philadelphia wins outright. I think they're just a slightly better team. It's worth noting here, this is an A.J. Brown revenge game. And it's one thing when it's a revenge game because it's this guy left. A.J. Brown was traded. They didn't, the low ball offer, then he ends up getting the contract. This man might go crazy. Furthermore, T. Higgins out-physicaled those corners from Tennessee. So where I like the Titans defense is in that front 7. their secondary leaves some to be desired. Roger McCreary's a little small, and Christian Fulton's I think okay, but still a young corner. I could see this being a game where AJ Brown goes crazy, but also
he's due too.
He's
yeah.
due.
Yeah, he had fumbled each of the last 2 weeks. This could be kind of his return to form. Hey, this team didn't want me. I'm going to go banana. So I will definitely be betting some AJ Brown props, but also depending where the lines are at, Devonta Smith, because I like Christian Fulton. There is no corner on that team who is technically sound enough to keep up with Devonta Smith. So if as long as he gets the targets, I think Devonta goes bananas. Just because, again, I don't see anybody on that side of the ball is technically able to keep up with his route running prowess. What will be interesting is how much does Jalen Hurts use his legs? 155 rush yards last week. Even I didn't see that coming. So, what's the response for Tennessee? How do you try to bottle that up? But also, does Philadelphia lean on it that much? I mean, what did y'all see from that? Do you think that's something we'll see kind of week in and week out? Do you think Jalen Hurts, 8 to 10 carries a week is something we'll see pretty consistently?
I don't know. That's tough. I don't know. I think they need to kind of open up the passing game. The one thing that I don't see, and what I saw a lot against, I mean, the main game that I really watched like every play of, obviously was against the Vikings, right? And a huge piece of that game was RPOs with a lot of outlets to Dallas Goedert. Without him, that passing offense has just gone straight down. And I'm not somebody who's a big tight end guy, but it's really kind of crazy to me how different the offense looks and how like tamed it has become since Dallas Goedert's been out. It's pretty wild because like I said, most people don't look at tight ends and you're like, oh, that's going to make or break an offense.
Right.
But it kind of feels like there's a big chink in that armor too.
In the tight ends you would think of are George Kittle or Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is really probably the only one I'd look at and say that offense is ruined now because I think San Francisco's got enough weapons. The Raiders haven't been playing Darren Waller and Kyle Pitts is already hurt. So clearly Travis Kelce's kind of that guy. But Goddard, I totally agree. And there was one point in that game last week where it's like a 3rd and 8. And I was like, what are they going to go to here? Because that's the spot where I felt like Goddard was always there for Hurts. Ultimately, AJ Brown makes a nice big play. But I also concur completely. I even said this in my power rankings. So sorry if people check that out. You're going to hear me kind of repeat this point. But it felt like teams were respecting Hurts as a passer so much that he's not getting a QB spot. He's getting a second safety deep in coverage. And because that passing game kind of eroded away, and it took a game where he runs for 155 yards to bring that extra defender back to the box. But anyways, tangent aside, Mason, what do you think about this one? Do you think we see Jalen Hurts kind of religiously running for 10 plus carries a week?
I think he wants to. I can tell he definitely wants to. I saw a lot of designed QB runs.
I think Sirianni definitely. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I saw a lot of designed QB draws in that game. So I think the Titans definitely, forced him to throw. He was missing a lot of throws against the Packers too. I don't know. I can definitely tell he likes to run, but I don't know. We'll see.
I just think it's going to be interesting to see how the game plan changes. Now that the guys run for 155 yards, you kind of always have to account for that. It's just like Lamar Jackson. You almost always have to have a spy or contain. So it just plays for the future game plans. But anyways, again, we've talked about this one long enough. Let's move on to game number 4 now. This is my favorite game of the week. Dolphins, 49ers. Shanahan versus McDaniel. Let me just start this off the top. I like Miami here with 3.5 points, but also I just like them outright to win this game. It just feels like one where the Padawan steals one from the master. But also this is a great teaser leg when it comes to the total. Move this down to 40.5 and slam the over. So if you're looking at teaser legs, I love the total in this one. JT, let me throw it to you. Where do you stand on this one? It's in San Francisco. A battle of 2 very similar offenses with a lot of firepower. Who you got coming out on top?
And 4 points seems like a lot.
Was it 4 now?
Yeah, it's at 4. That just seems high.
I got to go with Miami.
Yeah, I like Miami +4. People are hot on the 49ers, rightfully so. They've got weapons all over the place. But yeah, I don't know. There's not really, they have a lot of star power, but I still think that there's a little bit of, I don't know how to explain it, but there's going to be a Jimmy G hits a linebacker in the face. I don't know. There's something coming. And I also think that Dolphins offense, it just operates so clean and almost like the defense isn't even there. It's executed. Tua is executing this offense. There's literally he's just throwing into air. He's just throwing into air. And he's throwing tight window throws and he's not even thinking twice about it. Not really throwing a lot of picks. It's kind of crazy kind of how well oiled that Dolphins offense is. And the 49ers, they've got weapons everywhere, but they haven't been as fluid to me. If you watch them both on offense, it doesn't feel like the 49ers are cruising through people like the Dolphins are. So the fact that you can get them at more than a field goal, I love that. So I think I'd go Dolphins +4, push it to +10, take the over. That's the play.
Yeah.
I think just because those offenses are fire. So I think that's probably the best way to do it. +10, and then take Dolphins +10, take the over.
Yeah, and 15% of games end in a 3-point differential. So the fact you're going to give me in this type of a game, the field goal, yeah, I'll take that with Miami. I like them to win outright, honestly. I think you bring up a lot of great points there. I mean, just it does kind of feel like Tua's operating that offense as if it's walkthroughs. Like there's just no one there. I do think San Francisco defends the middle of the field a little bit better. Right, Fred Warner is just an imposing presence, but Tyreek Hill, Jalen Watt, those it doesn't really matter. It also just doesn't really. Also, that run game super efficient. Like Jeff Wilson, also a revenge game for him.
Mostert may be back this week too.
Mostert and Wilson is a 1-2 punch in that offense. Yeah, I'll take that 5 yards a pop. And also, when talking about San Francisco, I mean, yeah, they got a lot of firepower, but it was good for 13 points last week.
That's what I'm saying.
New Orleans is better defensively than Houston for sure, but I don't know. That score feels like a Madden rage quit. Like you got the touchdown, the pick six, and then the dude quit before the extra point. That was a full game, and the Saints had 2 red zone turnovers in that game, so could have played out in a very different way if the Saints are just a better football team. But anyways, I'm with you there, Mason. Let me hear your thoughts. Who do you like here, San Francisco or Miami?
Yeah, I'll be quick. Like everybody talks about the 49ers defense. Like it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's really good. I think the Dolphins offense is just that much better. Yeah. Like you guys talked about.
It's the best offense in the league right now.
Right. Like you guys talked about, Tua is just, dicing him up every single game. He's like 9-0 as a starter this year. But now you got McCaffrey banged up. You got Elijah Mitchell banged up again. I don't think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a great game. I just think the Dolphins run away with it. I think they control, if not the entire game. But yeah, I like the Dolphins here.
You like the money line then?
Oh, I'm definitely playing money line.
Oh yeah.
It's good value.
What's that?
Let's see, a +4. I'm guessing like +230 maybe.
Wait, they're +4.
Yeah, they're +4.
Yeah, they have points on their side. Yeah. That's again.
Wow.
To me, it's in San Francisco.
That's +170 for.
Wow. Oh yeah, I'm hammering that.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably bet that once we get off the recording. So a little insider baseball, we do actually bet our plays here. But I also want to ask you a quick question. So like we're singing the praises of Tua Tagovailoa, and I think the question has to be asked, like, what can we learn from this, right? Because like the first 2 years, people were ready to move on from him. People were ready to quit. I mean, but then you get this offense. Yeah, I was too. I was in that camp. I was like, hey, and it's probably just not going to work. He's not athletically gifted like a Josh Allen, where you buy him time, maybe it figures it out. But is there really something to say that, hey, you get the right offensive guy, or whether it's a head coach or an OC, then anybody's live, or do you think kind of Tua is a special case, kind of an outlier to that rule?
No, I think it's another case of the offensive coordinating around the quarterback. Like we see oftentimes trying to fit a square peg into a round hole where, I don't know, like an athletic quarterback is asked to make, the third read and throw a dart across the middle. Like that's not happening. Same way with Tua, like he's not going to be running a lot of read options. He's also not going to be throwing, deep posts all the way down the field. Now he can with Tyreek Hill, right? Yeah. But he's not.
It's not going to look like Josh Allen, right?
It's not going to look like that. So like, scheme him up on drags and slants and digs at like the 15-yard end mark, and just let him go to work and dot some stuff up down the middle of the field, right down low, and they move. It's just what we saw with the Ravens being willing to scheme their whole offense, make it look like a high school offense, so Lamar can run it. Like that's really what happened, and it's just newer. The best way to go. Obviously, we see an increased production on the offense when you build it around your quarterback. Like it's mind-blowing. You would think that every team would do it, but so it's just they're doing what they should, right?
Well, even sticking with the Baltimore example, Greg Roman was the OC for the 49ers when they had Colin Kaepernick, so he had to do the same thing from Smith to Kaepernick. He did the exact same thing that they had to do ultimately with Flacco to Lamar Jackson. But Mason, what do you think some of the lessons we can learn from this? And also, I'll kind of add one last thing. The offense hasn't looked as good when it was Teddy B or Skylar Thompson. Now, granted, 7th round rookie and a journeyman in Teddy Bridgewater. But I also think Tua might be the most accurate passer of the ball, sub 10 yards down the field. That dude can put it anywhere he wants to in that type of a window, in that type of a box. And then Mike McDaniel is cooking up an offense that's getting dudes open that short. So, is that ultimately the lesson? Find that perfect pairing, or is there something else we can glean from this?
Right. Like Tua, I'm pretty sure he leads the league in passer rating. I just can't believe they're getting 4 points, man. Like,
He's still on the line.
dude, I'm shook. I don't know. I don't know if it's whether they're on the road this week or what, but I would have been okay if it was a pick.
There's a lot of media hype on the 49ers right now.
Like, for sure.
And I think it's because of their
49ers are hot
defense. I think it's because of their defense.
Yeah. Well, and it's really interesting. If you look at teams and how much they're normally having to lay, the 49ers have put themselves into a status with the Bills and the Chiefs, which, like, I like San Francisco, but, like, I think there's a clear line of delineation from those two to San Francisco. So, specifically the offensive consistency. So that's tough. Anyways, good conversation there. I appreciate that. Now let's move on to game number 5. Again, we're not talking Sunday or Monday Night Football. Apologies for those teams. If it's not San Francisco and Miami's game of the week, Kansas City and Cincinnati has to be it. Only a 1.5 point spread. So that's kind of where I think that San Francisco and Miami line should be. Anytime I can get Pat Mahomes for less than a field goal, let alone less than 2 points, I'm taking Kansas City. JT, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm betting Kansas City. This is weird. This is a weird line. This is something I look at and I'm like, what do they know that we don't?
Right.
The Bengals are not that good. I'm sorry. They're just not. They're good.
Jamar Chase back this week?
I don't care.
Right, that's right.
Don't care. They're not. Burrow is okay. He's good, but he is streaky, and people need to call a spade a spade. Like, my man has really bad games. Like, he has bad games where he looks like a bad quarterback. But people are, like, addressing him like he is Mahomes and stuff like that. It's not close. He's not Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. I think Burrow is okay. He's good. But, like, we need to relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
I think he's on that tier with Herbert.
Yeah, and the Chiefs have shown us nothing but, like, getting the job done. I don't see how they're only getting 1.5. That's insane to me. It should be at least 3.5. So the fact that you can get them at under just to win by a field goal, that's crazy. But like I said, it's one of those lines where you look at it and you're like, this looks like, is that 1 or 7.5? Like, it's just weird. Like, you don't want to trust it almost, and you're like, this feels kind of too easy. So it feels square, but, like, I just don't see it with the Bengals.
Mason, what do you think?
No, I'm definitely on JT's side.
And this game's in Arrowhead, it should be noted. Like, I think that's a legitimate place at home.
It's just weird.
It is weird.
Like,
that game and the Dolphins 49ers game, definitely weird.
Yeah, they're both weird for the opposite reasons. Like, yeah.
No, I totally agree. Well, let me insert myself here. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Again, anytime I can get Pat Mahomes for less than a field goal is insane. But also, I wrote this down in our notes before it moved to 1.5. Originally, it was 2.5, which not a whole lot of closing line value there. But let's just say this game goes back to 2.5. You tease this through 0, just like we talked about earlier. Again, you're not getting value at the 0 mark, but the Bengals won both matchups last year by a field goal. So if you move from 2.5 to plus 3.5, you're still keeping that leg live. And then, whatever else we want to play. It doesn't even have to be in this game. That could just be one of your teaser legs. Move the Chiefs out to 3.5 feels like the safest way you can potentially bet this game, but there's no way Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes are losing a third consecutive game to somebody. If I see them do it, then I'll change my analysis here, but I think they're the best team in the league right now, and I have a hard time thinking they dropped 3 in a row to the same squad. It does help getting Jamar Chase back, but I also think Kansas City's defense has gotten better. First-round edge rusher in George Karlaftis, first-round corner in Trent McDuffie, Carlos Dunlap's there, Leo Chenal, third-round linebacker. I just think Kansas City is a better team, defensively speaking, this year versus last year. So I'm right there with you on this one. So, are you guys, if you do, let's say you do a same-game teaser, and you're moving, Kansas City out to plus 3.5. You like betting over or under this total? I think that's the other interesting note of this game. Do you think this is a ton of points, or do you think these offenses kind of go cold for a random reason?
53 is a lot.
That's what I'm saying. So you could bet under 59, and
I like the under at the teaser spot.
Okay.
I like the under. That's a lot of points. I like that in any NFL game. I just don't like anytime I see a 50 plus, I'm not touching an over. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, with the teaser, you get it down to 47, but still, you're asking both teams to put up 25, essentially.
I don't like being like 44.5 is like my limit personally. Like, if it's over that, I'm probably not betting, no matter what it is, like teaser wise.
But I mean, I think you've seen a ton of that this year, right? Like, where it takes one team on that high of a total, it takes one team falling flat. One team put up 10 points and you're
That's the problem. Yeah.
And you're screwed. So, Mason, what do you think about this one? Or is there any props you're maybe looking into for this one?
Definitely like Jamar Chase receptions, him coming back. Sure. But also I will note Patrick Mahomes and his wife just had a baby boy. So he's feeling pretty good. I definitely
over 2.5 touchdowns.
I definitely see him coming into Arrowhead and just, lighting it up. Like you mentioned, losing the last two to this squad. I don't think they lose another. So I'm probably going to hammer the Chiefs, but that's just me.
Now, let me quickly make the case before all the Bengals fans leave this video if they haven't already. The Chiefs struggled last week against the Rams, and I have the Rams at 28 in my power rankings. So that's kind of and that's with Bryce Perkins. I mean, that's kind of a tough one to sweat out there, but I think it's also you're kind of looking ahead to the Bengals, right? And the Rams are in town, whatever. It's not really the same Rams. So maybe that's part of it. And then now T. Higgins becomes the 2 going against a rookie and Jalen Watson. What does that look like? That could be interesting. I just, I'm hoping this is a slugfest, but I don't know, man. 53 points is a straight up total. That's tough to hit. Only thing I really do know, I like that Mahomes 2.5 touchdowns, and I like the Chiefs to win. So those are probably my 2 things I would recommend from this game. Any other things you guys want to throw out, or are we ready to move on to locks of the week?
I think we're good.
Okay, here you go. Get your lock out. That doesn't look like a lock, but you know what I'm trying to do here. Anyways, we're loading up locks of the week. Last week we went 3 for 3. So that does it for our 5-game preview. Now we, return the favor to viewers. We want to say thanks for checking out this week's episode, whether it's audio or video. Appreciate that. Thanks for spending some time with us. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. And if you're new around here, subscribe for more football content, more conversations between the 3 of us. So I guess we'll go ahead and start. Hold on. I don't have my clock out. I'm being a bad host here. So JT, let me start with you. Let me hear your first lock for this week.
Yeah, lock of the week for me is going to be the Bills money line at the Patriots on Thursday Night Football. And then we're going to take the Ravens not to lose 2 in a row to bad teams. They're going to beat the Broncos at home. And then both parlayed together, the money lines are going to give you -109. So basically, even money. And, 2 teams that if you look at them and you look at who they're playing, they should win, at least just win. So that I really like that as my lock. Yep.
And I feel good about that. If the Bills win on Thursday, the Broncos are not. I don't think they're going to beat Baltimore, so you can kind of coast in the weekend. Mason, what's your lock?
All right, after coming off a dub last week, I gotta get more spicy. So we got a 3-teamer. All right, hear me out. Sorry, it's like storming here. Sorry.
Oh,
Chargers against the Raiders. Chargers -1.5.
Okay.
We got the Chiefs versus the Bengals. Chiefs -1.5. And then we got the Dolphins +7.5. Because of that sketch line, I'm going to be safe with that.
Okay.
+444.
Oh my God.
Value.
Let's go. The profit of plus money plays never lets us down. That is absolutely fuego. And now I got about 45 seconds. I'll go with, I'm actually going to go with the teaser. You know what? Chiefs -1.5. Chiefs -1.5. That's kind of a good block. I like that. And I like the Miami line a ton. But that is going to do it for our locks of the week. Stamp them down. Go ahead and obtain the grain while you can. I'll throw out some other honorable mentions. Straight up, I like Dolphins +4, Mahomes or over 2.5 touchdowns. Let's see, the Chargers line at -2.5. I don't think it's bad. You said it's -1.5 now.
That's
like even more. The Giants getting a 1.5. You guys remember who the Giants are playing? No,
they play Commanders. Commies, go Commies.
The Manders, bro.
Yeah, I think I put that down because it's time for Taylor Heineke to return to earth now. I think this is a bounce back spot.
He hasn't been playing well though. Like that's the thing. They're winning.
But he's been winning.
They are winning despite him. That's fair. So, and then some other teaser legs. If people are interested, you get the Giants out to 7.5. Has Taylor Heineke won a game by 2 scores yet? Maybe the Eagles game. He might have won that one by 8, but or 9. Dolphins out to +10. I think is hot. You can even do the same thing with the Ravens out to +3.5. So a lot of teasable lines. The over in the Miami game, the over in the Vikings game. I like all that stuff. So
Vikings spread has moved to 2.5 as predicted. We talked about it since we started the video. It's moved to 2.5. So now is when you get your teaser. Take the Vikings, take the over. I already played it just now live. And also, I would like to note, I know we just talked about the game. The Chiefs and Bengals is at the Bengals, actually.
Oh, my fault. That's my bad.
That changes some things. I don't think for me, it doesn't change anything. As far as 1.5, still give me the Chiefs. Losing 3 in a row to the same team, not happening.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe I just don't have enough respect for Cincinnati as a home field. It just, to me, that changed my complexion from that's a nice home field advantage for Kansas City to where it's basically a neutral field now. Like, I don't really care. So that's a good note. I always find a way to mess up at least one of those games. But any other honorable mentions y'all want to toss out to the good people?
Yeah, I think Titans money line against the Eagles is kind of spicy at +190. I don't know. I got a gut feeling that they kind of They kind
That is a good. That's a great value for
Yeah,
Matt.
I think it's good value. And then also the Lions versus the Jags. I like the Lions money line at -105 at home.
Okay. I like that too. And then I mentioned it earlier, the same game parlay for the Jets Vikings game. I think you can bet both sides of that and at least walk away with, like, let's say you're putting a $10 bet, at least $10 worth of profit out of that. So I think there's a way to bet that game from two different angles, and then hopefully Justin Jefferson goes bananas and you get a bigger payout. But I think there's a way to kind of get a safe hedge there in that game. JT, anything else you want to toss out?
I'm trying to think. I kind of like if Stafford's back. I like the Rams at home against the Seahawks. They're getting 7.5 points. That's a lot of points. I know you're not a Rams believer.
Dude, Gino guy here.
I think I'm as down on the Seahawks as you are on the Rams. I think the Seahawks are a better team, but I'm not as down on the Rams as most people are, and I'm definitely not as high on the Seahawks as most people are.
Right, and Aaron Donald does typically play really well against the Seahawks. They have a pretty rough interior offensive line. I can see that game working out. And Jalen Ramsey, DK Metcalf, that's always a fun matchup. I can see it. And plus 7.5, that you got the full touchdown. So I don't hate it, but I won't play it. But awesome. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Hurry Up Offense, our Week 13 preview. Thank you again, everybody, for checking out this week. Be sure to come back next week when we do our Week 14 preview. But we're JT Mason. My name's TJ, and we are signing off.